Last time when we discussed, we were discussing we introduced you to research. We discussed the concepts of how to write a concept, a concept note. No, we didn't discuss how to write a concept note, but we discussed the processes of how we are supposed to conduct a research. So where we discussed the steps where you have where you start with your idea. You have your idea, you develop your idea into a concept note. Then from a concept note, you then move to develop a full proposal where you'll be outlining all the steps which you should be involved in conducting your research. Then from your full proposal, you collect your data, you analyze your data. Then after analyzing your data, you then write your final research projects, which is now chapters, and everything what we are discussing. So today we are going to focus a bit. I think I discussed how you write and how you. I discussed how you write, how you. We discussed how you frame your problem. So I'm going to give you an example of a problem statement. So I'll give you an example of a problem statement to try to show you how you can actually write a problem statement. So this is an example of some research. This is not true. What I'm presenting, some of the things I'm presenting here, they are true, but I'm just trying to present them to you as an example, as an example of a problem. So I'll use an example of the current coronavirus. I think most of you know about coronavirus. There have been issues here in terms of, if you check from the reports which are coming, most of the infections which are happening within our setting, most of them, they're happening from the returnees, and those who are coming from the countries, from South Africa, from Mozambique, from Botswana. And there's been a lot of debate to see, are these returnees getting infected in quarantine centers, or they are coming with the infection from the countries where they're coming from. So using that example, I try to create a problem statement. But the aim actually for this is to maybe to carry out a research to see if these returnees are getting infected in quarantine centers. That's the research which we want to. That's the problem we have. We have an increased number of cases which are happening in quarantine centers. So the research is to see what are the things in quarantine centers which are increasing the number, which might put the risk of returnees in getting COVID in those centers. Then if we find those reasons, we might then give recommendations to them. Remember, as I said last time, the purpose of research is not to solve a problem. It's not to solve a problem. You solve the problem indirectly, and you get the reasons. Then from the reasons, you come up with recommendations. Those recommendations will then be used to solve the problem. So using that example, this is an example of a problem statement, and I'll read it. So I'll read the statement which I have. So to those who are watching a video, I think you can see you'll be able to see the problem statement as I read it. So here's some background. Zimbabwe reported its first case of COVID-19 on the 20th of March 2020. Since then, the cases have been gradually increasing, and by the 26th of May 2020, the country had only 56 cases. Of the 56 cases reported by the 25th of May 2020, 31 were imported, while the remaining were local transmission. From a preliminary analysis of the daily situational reports between 26th of May and 12th of June 2020, slightly over 2 weeks, there was a huge surge of cases to 343. The cases increased by 287%, which is 513%, And of the 287 cases, more than 95% were detected from quarantine centers, while the remainder were either local transmissions or contacts of known cases. The majority, more than 95% of the cases, were from South Africa, while other countries, Mozambique, Botswana, and a few others, contributed the remainder. There has been a debate on whether the returnees are getting the infection in quarantine center or they are bringing the infection from countries of origin. If the situation in quarantine centers is not addressed urgently, it has the potential of initiating massive uncontrollable community transmission in the country. We therefore plan to conduct a study to assess factors that might be contributing to returnees getting infected in quarantine centers. So this is an example of a problem statement. So I will discuss parts of this problem statement a little. So if you check the first part here, the first part of this, the first part which I've highlighted, I'll try to see a color which I can highlight it with. Maybe I use whatever yellow. This first part, that's the background. And you don't just start by writing a problem statement without giving a bit of background. So in this case, this first part where we are, where we are trying to introduce to people to this problem which we are dealing with, which is about coronavirus. So that yellow part which I've highlighted, it actually shows the background. Zimbabwe, in terms of COVID-19, its first case, and it was detected on the 20th of March. Since then, the cases have been gradually increasing, and by the 25th of May, the country had only 56 cases. Then I describe a bit of those 56 cases reported by the 25th, 31 were imported, while the remaining were local. Then the next stage now, which I'm going now, and it is now to describe my problem. Is to describe my problem now, and this is where I am describing my problem. This is my problem. The next section which I'm highlighting now. That's the problem. What is my problem? Remember, one of the things which I'm also going to show you there, from the preliminary analysis of daily situational reports between 26th of May and 12th of May 28, which was a period of over 2 weeks, there was a huge surge of cases to 343. The cases increased by 287%, and which is 518%. And of the 287 cases, more than 95 were detected from quarantine centers, while the remainder were either local transmission or contacts of known cases. The majority were from South Africa, well, other countries, Mozambique, Botswana, and it contributed to the remainder. So this is my problem. Remember, one of the issues which we are discussing, and when you are describing your problem, you need to put the data sources. Where did you get the source? And if you get from this, that is this one, I will try to recolor it again and put another color. Where did you get our information? You don't just start by explaining your problem. You need to tell us, because most of the problem, they need to be supported by data. So in this case, from a preliminary analysis of daily situational reports, I know you've seen these things, you have seen these things, which comes to your phone every day. But that was my case. My case. So from analysis of those reports, what I'm trying to say is you need a data source for your problem. We don't just start describing your problem without letting us know what was your data source. And then the data, our language analyzer, you should be specified in terms of period. You are analyzing data for what period? I think analyze data. But in this case, for this problem, our data source where we got this problem, and it was between 26th of May and 12th of June. That's the period. So you tell us your data source. So up I'm using an example here, COVID. Why? I think it's a neutral example. But you guys, when you're doing your problem, we gave you some task to list some of the problems which you see in the HIV, and you list it. So you then look for the proper data sources for your problem. So for this case, which I'm using for COVID, my data source are the daily reports, bulletins, which are sent by the ministry. But for this the problem, I looked over a period of 26 May to the 12th of June. Then this one up to 2 weeks, and then up to 2 weeks is still defining the problem. Hey, and then maybe the remainder of that, there was a huge surge of cases to 343. The cases increased by 287, 513%, and more than 95% were detected. I'm now putting statistics now in the numbers to show my problem, and then to try to show the magnitude of my problem. And then remember, I'm saying the cases increased by 287. They are increased by 280, which is 518%. So I'm trying to show how big my problem is. Sure, my cases they were just at 56, but from a period of 2 weeks, they increased by 513%. And most of these cases were coming from quarantine centers. So as someone who is concerned, you need to know, why are we getting most of these cases in quarantine centers? In most of these cases, they're coming from South Africa, Mozambique. South Africa is contributing most of those cases. And so remember, the next stage, you tell us your data source, you tell us the period which you are looking. You then put figures to try and quantify your problem statement. And that's it. Then if you check the last part from here and up to here, which I'm highlighting again, and this part which I'm highlighting. So it's more of trying to, now we are going into justifying our, we want to now to justify our we now want to justify our problem now. There's been a debate on whether the detainees are getting the infection in the quarantine centers or they are bringing infection from the origin of the country. I want to know, are these people getting COVID in the quarantine centers, or they are getting this COVID where in the quarantine centers? And so it's a question now which we are asking ourselves, because, and if you get the next time, if the situation in quarantine centers is not addressed urgently, it is the potential of initiating massive and controllable community transmission in the country. That's the consequence. And you tell us the problem. What is your problem? If that problem is not solved, what are the consequences of that problem? Treat as a river condition. So please, let's understand that. And the last is, if you read the notes which we are discussing, it's exactly the same and the same concepts which we are discussing. And now at the end of your problem, you need to describe it. If this problem is not solved, if the problem is not addressed, what are the likely consequences of this problem? In this case, if you, as a country, assuming these infections are happening in quarantine centers, if the problem is not addressed, what will happen? It means, it means those cases, they've got the potential of of initiating massive community transmission. Why? Because people in the quarantine center, some of them they can, and some of them they are running away from quarantine centers. Imagine there are also people who work in those quarantine centers. So those people can carry the COVID virus from the quarantine centers and spread it into the community. And in the long run, we have serious problem as a country. So it depends now with your problem, and it's whatever problem you're addressing. If it's about defaulting, if it's about adherence, it's about loss to follow up, it's about stigma, whatever, you then need to kind of look and to kind of assess, and to kind of what can I say? You need to find what are the potential consequences or problems which are associated. If you don't address that problem, what will happen? Then if you check the last statement, that's the aim. Hmm? You always conclude your, what can I say? You always conclude your problem statement with the aim. And it, because our problem, our data, our background, our data source, the period, we describe our problem in terms of statistics and numbers. Then the last part now, we therefore plan to conduct a study to assess factors that might be contributing to returnees getting infected with COVID in quarantine center. That's our aim. So usually your problem statement, funnels the terror by putting your aim, what you exactly want to do. And then from there, after your aim, the next thing in most cases is your research question. Your research question, you don't just do research, and you need to have some research question. Because I'm doing my research, what is the question I want to answer? But usually the research from it comes from your aim statement. And like in this case, we plan to conduct a study to assess factors that are contributing to returnees getting infected in quarantine centers. From this, we can actually formulate our research question. So we can change this thing into a question and like this. These are statements which was there, but we can actually change it and so we can say we can remove these things and make it a question now. What are the factors that might be contributing to returnees getting infected with COVID infection in quarantine centers? And it's already a research question. So if you read your research module, all those issues of saying there's a section which describes a research question and what is a research what is a research question, blah blah, how to a research question is just guide you now and as you do your research, what is exactly you want to do. So in this case, we just converted our aim statement, which is the last, into a researching question to say what are the factors that might be contributing to returnees getting infected with COVID in quarantine centers. It just guides you. Then from that research question, what you need to do, you need to then develop your main objective or your general whatever objective. It depends with what you're saying, with your studies, what. So you then need from there develop your main objective and then. So as you develop your main objective, it has to be related, and it has to be related. It has to be related from your research question. So in this case, our research question is, what are the factors that might be contributing to returnees getting infected with COVID in quarantine centers? We change this question into an objective, and how do you change this into an objective? It's the same, and my objectives, when you're writing objectives, all objectives, they start with 2. When you're writing an objective. So it's no longer a question, but it's an objective. So this one, it becomes an objective. And to assess 2, what do you want to do? Remember, an objective is what you set out to do. Choose better. An objective is what you set out to go out and do. And so in this case, we have changed that research question into a main objective to assess factors that might be contributing to returnees getting infected with COVID-19 in quarantine centers. So it is. So remember these things now, and let's get these things very clear. Your aim statement should be the same as your research question, they should be the same with your what, and it should be the same with your with your main objective. They should tally. I've seen people confusing these things where here you are writing something, here you are writing something. They should go hand in hand. And then from there, you can actually formulate your title. It depends, how you want to put title. One of the problems which I realize with students, they always think they base their research on a title, and they think with a research, if you're doing a research unofana utanga title. You don't start research with a title. You start research with a problem, and you can then think about your title, whatever you want to give whatever you want to give your title. These are examples of title. Maybe you can give your title. Maybe you can give your title like factors. You can do it like this: describing as an objective, and what are the factors? Factors that may be contributing to returnees getting infected with COVID in quarantine centers. Remember, you always want to make sure your title is specific in Zimbabwe. You need to make sure in Zimbabwe and in 20 whatever. In Zimbabwe, you need to be specific where you put your in 2020, something like that. Or so you can actually have a title which is a description of your objective, or you can put a fancy title. For example, you can say increase, or you can say spike of COVID-19 cases in quarantine in Zimbabwe. Quarantine centers, and that's an example. Then you can put do. Then you can put what are the causes. You can think and you can phrase your question, whatever. That's a title. It's an example of a title. This one is an example of a title. These are like one example how you can phrase your title. So most people, they think with the research, find out a title. No. The title, that's the last thing which you think, and it's in a research. So you can think there are several ways which you can give your title for your research. For example, this is an example: spike of COVID-19 cases in Zimbabwe quarantine centers. What are the possible causes? What are the possible causes? Remember, you also need to make sure your title is interesting, and if someone is here and it is reading it, or you can have your title exactly as you are describing your objective, as simple as the same way which you are describing. So you can choose, but in most cases, you need to make your title attractive, so that when people see your paper or whatever, see your article, they like to read it because they find there's something interesting about your article. So let's not confuse this. You start with the problem. That's where you start. You start with the problem. Then from the problem, you have your research question, you have your main objective. Then you can think of your title, whatever, depending on what you want. You can there are two ways of having your title. You can have a title which is simple, like this one, which is like the same as your objective. Or you can have a title which is catchy, which is attractive, and you want to market your work, or you want to market your paper so that someone sees it, they get interested in reading it. So it depends with the skill, but most people, they put this one is a descriptive title, which you can put for your for your start. So you choose whatever you want to do. Then from there, the next stage which you need to have are your specific now objectives. Are your specific objectives which you want to develop. You need now to develop specific objectives for your research now, and to have specific objective. So remember, our main object, remember specific objectives, it means we are taking what are we doing? We are taking our specific, we are now breaking down the main objective. Truth matter, we are now breaking down the main objective into specific. For us to achieve this main objective, we need to find, remember, I want to see the factors that are contributing to returnees getting infected in quarantine centers. There are some other ways. Others might say you want to see the reasons. We want to see maybe there are factors, maybe there are reasons, maybe there are, it depends with your topic. Others there are challenges, others there are whatever they are. You need to find a way of splitting these reasons or these factors. Let's take an example. Trauma quarantine centers. There a lot of things happens in quarantine centers, which might predisposes people to getting things. Maybe there might be, what can you say? There might be behavioral factors, the way people are behaving in quarantine centers. There might be behavioral factors. There might be behavioral things which might be triggering and which might be affecting these people in quarantine centers for them to get COVID. I hope you have heard people having sexual relationships. The issue of condoms, people, condoms being used. It's about behavior, and maybe they are environmental. There are environmental issues within the quarantines. Maybe the way you are kugara, the conditions, spacing, and accommodation, all those issues which might predisposing them to getting infections. Maybe there are social things. Maybe there are social things. Maybe they are cultural. You never know what happens in the quarantine centers. Maybe you don't know what is happening there. Or maybe they are demographic. It might not be everyone in the quarantine centers who is getting infected by the COVID. So they can be social things, they can be behavioral things, they can be social things, they can be cultural, they can be economic actually. You can have economic things actually triggering people. Maybe you don't know, and maybe people they need to survive in those quarantine centers, but as part of them, surviving, and this is part of their survival. You need to assess maybe economic area, which might be pushing these people. But in the long run, they end up getting COVID. So remember, Tati, you break down. These are your factors, whatever they are. You try to split these things now to see what are the possible elements, what are the possible categories, our reasons or our gene or our factors. Then from there, what do? You then now formulate your specific gene objectives. How do you formulate your specific objectives? If you read your manual and your specific objectives, you can use, I said, all objectives, they start with 2. You can say to determine, to assess, to identify, so many. These are the options. These are the possible things which you can use for your. There are also many other examples in your module which you can use to start your objectives, and to determine, to assess, to identify, to establish, and whatever. And there are a lot of other things which you can use to evaluate. So it depends. You need to understand you need to understand your what you want to do. or to compare. Maybe if you're comparing things, you can use all these things for your objectives. But as I said, the objective, that's what you set out to go and do. Those are what I say. Those are what I. So you can then split. Remember, the first step is to see with what I want to look. What are the possible categories? What are the possible categories I can break down my factors or my reasons? Then from there, you need to decide how am I going to formulate my objectives. But remember, as you formulate your objectives, one of the things which is also in your module, which is very important, you need to make sure your objective are smart. They are what? They are smart. By smart, what does that mean? It means your objective, they are specific, they are measurable, they attainable. You can achieve what you want to do, what you want to do, what you want to do. They are realistic. Also, you are doing and they are time bound. So you don't just do some elements. So as you try to establish your objectives, make sure first you need to group your objectives. You group your objectives. What are these objectives? You think, how am I going to, which words am I going to use to start my objectives? But as you do that, you make sure they're specific and they are measurable. You can attain that, and they are realistic, and they're also time bound, which means there's time elements in that thing and in those objectives. Because what you want to do, remember, objective, this is what you set out to go and do. Choose better. So when you're now establishing your objectives, you just take your main objective and it depends with your studying, but most of the studies for your specific objectives, you are just now expanding and these are the possible things. They can be behavioral, they can be environmental, they can be social, they can be cultural, they can be demographic, they can be economic things. So you then expand now your things now. But you want to assess demographic, you want to assess demographic factors that might be contributing to this. Maybe you want to assess environmental. You want to assess environmental factors that might be contributing to returnees. Then you want to assess social factors that might be contributing to returnees getting infected in quarantine centers. Then you want to assess maybe economic factors. So that's it. I think you've seen this transition now, where we are coming from our research question. What are the factors that might be contributing to returnees getting infected with COVID quarantine centers? Then from there, we get our main objective. What are to assess the factors or reasons that might be contributing to returnees getting whatever in quarantine centers. Then you need to, this is the main thing, is broad. You need to split it now. You need to think if there are reasons, if there are whatever they are, which you are looking at. You need to split those things and get the possible things. So in this case, they can be demographic factors that might be contributing. They can be environmental factors that might contribute. They can be social factors that might be contributing. They might be economic factors that might be contributing to this. And all these things, it comes from this. You are assessing these things and you split your factors and look what are the possible things. Then you can, here I've been using to assess, but we can use to determine, this one works, to determine demographic factors that might be contributing to returnees getting infected with COVID in quarantine centers in Zimbabwe. You can use to identify social, to identify social factors to establish. So you can vary. you can vary the way you start your objectives. Then there's this concept which I was explaining. Your things should be specific, measurable, attainable, and time bound. You can bring that concept to make sure your things are specific. How can you do it? You can say, remember, to determine the factors that might be contributing to returnees getting infected in quarantine center in Zimbabwe. We are specifying now. We are saying in Zimbabwe, where maybe between January 2020 and December and COVID yakatanga muna March, and maybe you are between March 2020 and maybe you want to do your study up to June 2020. You see, so we are making it specific now. You are making your objective time bound. So measurable is these things which we are using. There are things which are not measurable. For example, I have seen people using my words, words like to appreciate. How can you measure appreciation? You don't use things like to appreciate, because these things like appreciate, you cannot be able to measure these things. You can only use things which are measurable. So things like to appreciate or whatever. And it's a common example. This one, it cannot be measured. So measurability, we are in the way you assess your things. So you can also do this, as I said. You can make your things you can make it more specific. Now, where you're saying to the demographic factors that might be contributing to returnees getting infected with COVID in quarantine, in Zimbabwe, quarantine centers, maybe, and in Zimbabwe, between whatever, you're putting the place, then you're putting the time bound. When exactly I want to do this. So you're making your things more smarter. And you can also put the same specificity time in your title. And here we say it in Zimbabwe. We can also put these things. This is between whatever March and GGG, and you can also put it in your title to make it more specific. So all this is being done to try to make sure your research is more specific. So you can also do that. Okay. So just to sum it up, please read in your manual in terms of last time I gave you an example of the problem statement, which is here, and just to sum up, you have your background of your problem, you put your data source, you put the period, you're defining problem in terms of numbers, you write the consequence of your problem, and last, you put your AMG statement. Then your research question, you're taking it from your aim. That's where you get your research question. Your objective, you're taking it from the research question. Your specific objectives, you are now splitting your main objective. And you're splitting it, your main objective, to write your specific objectives. How do you split? This is an example of how you split whatever challenge, whatever reasons, whatever thing. You need to think, this is my main I want to do, but what are the possible elements of this problem or this challenge? But the common things which I gave behavior, whatever, there are so many ways in which you can split your gene, and in which you can split your reasons or your factors. Then in terms of how to start your objectives, these are examples of how you do, but make sure you smart, it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. And things like to appreciate, don't use these words to appreciate, because they are not measurable. You can't be able to measure appreciation, but you need some things which are measurable. You can also make your things specific or time bound by specifying the time and this is the time within your within your objectives, and specifying the place, person, and time. So I think for today it's okay. We will discuss the next stage, the next stages uh, of our research in the coming lectures.